Imagine a man who towers above the rest, standing 7 feet 1 inch tall, with hands so massive they could engulf a basketball.
Until your skull pops! Motto, Khali Zindabad! Khali Zindabad!
That's the Great Khali.
Athlete that I had ever been in the ring with until I felt this monster.
But beneath the larger-than-life persona lies a story far more complex. In 2001, his dream of wrestling glory collided with a devastating tragedy. A training session turned fatal, and Khali found himself at the center of the storm. Accusations swirled, and his future hung in the balance. How does a man rebuild after being thrust into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons? Will he rise above the shadows of doubt, or will his dreams be crushed before they can even take flight? This is a tale of resilience, redemption, and the fight to rewrite destiny. On May 28, 2001, Khali stands across from Brian Ong, a young wrestler with big dreams. Both wrestlers were practicing the spinebuster, which ended up being Brian's final wrestling move ever. This accident happened because of a botched spinebuster. When Khali and Brian practiced this move, Brian made the mistake of grabbing Khali's shirt, and his tailbone hit first and his head whipped back violently against the mat. He collapsed and was then taken to the hospital where he lost his life. One of the trainers, John, later recalls, "It was like time stopped. We all knew something was terribly wrong. Panic sets in. Someone yells for help. The ambulance arrives, but it's too late. Brian Ong is pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. Khali's world comes crashing down. He goes from being the next big thing to being labeled as dangerous. The whispers start. The looks of fear follow him everywhere. His dream of becoming a wrestling superstar hangs by a thread. The incident sparks a legal battle. Ong's family later filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Roland Alexander and his APW. The suit claimed that APW failed to take care of Brian's well-being, considering the young prospect already had gotten a concussion weeks before due to the same move. APW knew this, but what did they do? They let Brian wrestle again, only after sitting out for 2 days of training. A few years later, the Ongs won the lawsuit, and they were awarded $1.3 to $2 million in damages, which APW's liability insurance covered. Despite the terrible accident, the Great Khali continued his wrestling training. Khali refuses to give up. He's determined to prove everyone wrong. It's not an easy road. Khali's got a mountain to climb, bigger than he is. He has to learn to control his immense strength, to be a gentle giant in a rough and tumble world. He's got to convince promoters to give him a chance, to look past the tragic incident and see his potential. Khali's journey from this point is like walking a tightrope. One wrong move could end his career for good, but he's determined to make it, step by careful step, all the way to the top of the wrestling world. But here's the thing, Khali's not about to throw in the towel. Nope, he's got his sights set on a whole new horizon: Japan and Mexico. In these foreign lands, Khali's like a blank page waiting to be written. No one knows about his past, and that's exactly what he needs. It's a fresh start, a chance to rewrite his story from scratch. But let me tell you, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Imagine trying to learn the ropes of a new wrestling style when you can barely understand what your trainer is saying. That's Khali's reality now. He's got to navigate language barriers thicker than his biceps and wrestle in ways he's never even seen before. But here's where it gets interesting. Khali starts teaming up with another giant of a man, a former basketball player named Giant Silva. Together, they form Club 7, and let me tell you, these guys are huge. We're talking about one of the tallest tag teams in wrestling history. It's like watching 2 skyscrapers duke it out in the ring. Slowly but surely, Khali starts to make a name for himself. He's not the Great Khali yet. He's Giant Singh, a force to be reckoned with in the ring. But it's not just about the flashy moves and intimidating presence. Nah, Khali's working on something much more important: control. Remember how his strength used to be seen as a liability? Well, now he's turning it into his greatest asset. It's like he's gone from being a wrecking ball to a precision instrument. He's learning to harness that raw power, to use it in ways that wow the crowd without putting his opponents at risk. But how did the Great Khali get his big break in WWE? Ironically, Vince McMahon noticed Khali when he appeared in Adam Sandler's The Longest Yard. McMahon, known for his love of big wrestlers, sees potential in Khali. The call comes in, and just like that, Khali's got a ticket to the big leagues. It's his dream come true, but also his biggest challenge yet. Can Khali prove he's not just safe in the ring, but a star? WWE sends Khali to Deep South Wrestling, their training ground. It's like wrestling boot camp, and Khali's not taking this chance lightly. After months of blood, sweat, and probably a few tears, Khali's finally ready for the main roster. His journey from movie extra to WWE superstar is about to come full circle. Trust me, what happens next is going to shock the wrestling world. It's April 7th, 2006, and SmackDown is about to get a shock like no other. The Undertaker's in the ring, probably thinking it's just another day at work. But he's in for a big surprise. As he's fighting Mark Henry outside the ring, out comes the Great Khali marching down to the ring. The Undertaker, who's made grown men cry for years, is looking up at someone. Khali's so tall, even the Phenom seems small, and you can feel the tension through your TV. As Khali steps into the ring, time freezes. These two titans are face to face. Well, face to chest, really. The Undertaker's eyes are wide, and for once he looks worried. Then, bam, all hell breaks loose. Khali launches into action, and oh my God, he's tossing the Undertaker around like a toy. He hits a devastating brain chop. The crowd's in shock, and poor Undertaker's seeing more stars than an astronomer. This isn't just a beatdown, it's a statement. By the time Khali's done, the Undertaker's lying in the middle of the ring, and Khali's standing tall over him. In just a few minutes, Khali's done the impossible. He's taken down the Undertaker, the backbone of WWE for years. It's like watching someone knock out Muhammad Ali in his prime. You know you're seeing history, but you just can't quite believe it. The storyline was meant to culminate in Khali's version of Hell in a Cell, the Punjabi prison match, at Great American Bash 2006. But Khali wasn't medically cleared that weekend to compete. As a result, Khali had to be replaced with the Big Show in the first ever Punjabi prison match. You know a wrestler is set up for great things if he's got a signature match in his repertoire. To date, Khali has only competed in one instance of his own signature match. Khali's undefeated streak lasted for 4 months before Undertaker defeated him in a last man standing match on an episode of SmackDown rather than any pay-per-view, giving Khali his first definite loss in WWE. After losing, Khali would move on to a different brand, first debuting in ECW before being drafted to Raw. The Great Khali's WWE Raw debut on January 8, 2007 was nothing short of monumental. Stepping into the main event against none other than John Cena, Khali made an instant impact. The match was chaotic, with Armando Estrada sitting in on commentary, eventually inserting himself into the action by jumping onto the apron with a steel chair in hand. Cena, ever the opportunist, snatched the chair away and cracked it against the Great Khali. However, the moment didn't end in Cena's favor. Khali secured the victory by disqualification and left the WWE champion flattened with a thunderous Khali slam to close out the show. From there, Khali's dominance escalated. On the April 30th edition of Raw, he unleashed a full-scale rampage. Backstage segments saw Khali tearing through Edge, Shawn Michaels, and Randy Orton before delivering another devastating assault on WWE champion John Cena. The following week, Khali went head-to-head with Shawn Michaels in a #1 contenders match. Unsurprisingly, Khali overpowered the Heartbreak Kid, earning his shot at Cena at Judgment Day. But it was at Judgment Day where Khali's momentum hit its first major setback. Despite his massive size and intimidating presence, he tapped out to Cena's STFU, a shocking outcome considering this marked Khali's first submission loss in WWE. Yet the company clearly wasn't ready to halt Khali's push. Enter Ranjin Singh, Khali's new translator and manager, who accompanied him to the ring as the Giant sought redemption. This led to One Night Stand, where Cena and Khali faced off in a last man standing match. In the match's dramatic conclusion, Cena hoisted the 7-foot giant onto his shoulders and delivered a jaw-dropping FU off a crane near the entranceway. The move secured Cena the victory, but Khali's trajectory wasn't derailed for long. Just a week later, during the 2007 WWE Draft, SmackDown selected Khali as its top pick. This strategic move positioned him right in the mix for the World Heavyweight Championship, solidifying his place as one of WWE's top-tier attractions. When the Great Khali transitioned to SmackDown, his presence was immediately felt as he entered into a rivalry with the Animal Batista. But their feud quickly took a backseat to a major shakeup. Then, World Heavyweight Champion Edge was forced to relinquish his title,
and that is relinquish the World Heavyweight Championship,
setting the stage for a high-stakes 20-superstar battle royal. In a dominant performance, Khali tore through the competition, eliminating Matt Hardy, Kane, and even Batista to capture the World Heavyweight Championship. It was a defining moment that cemented Khali as a true force on the blue brand. Khali's reign of terror continued at the Great American Bash, where he successfully defended his title against both Kane and Batista. To make matters worse for his opponents, he introduced a devastating new submission finisher, the Khali Vice Grip. With his massive hands, he seemed capable of crushing the skulls of anyone in his path, from Batista to Kane to even WWE legend Ric Flair. At SummerSlam, Khali faced Batista once again. Ranjin Singh led the Giant to the ring for what turned into another War of the Titans. But in the closing moments, Khali's frustration boiled over. A steel chair shot to Batista's back led to a disqualification. Although Khali lost the match, he retained his championship and kept his grip on the top spot on the SmackDown card. Days later, Khali escalated his dominance by attacking Rey Mysterio with the Vice Grip on SmackDown. Batista rushed in for the save, reigniting their feud, which would culminate at Unforgiven. There, Khali, Batista, and Rey Mysterio faced off in a triple threat match. Despite Khali's towering presence, Batista managed to lift the Giant into a spine-shattering spinebuster for the win, ending Khali's 61-day title reign. But for Khali and Batista, the rivalry wasn't over. It needed a definitive conclusion. That came at no mercy in WWE's most unique and brutal match, the Punjabi Prison. The closing moments saw both men scaling the bamboo cages. Khali was lumbering over the second structure when Batista, in a moment of desperation, leaped from one cage to the next. The gamble paid off as Batista reached the ground first, finally putting an end to Khali's reign at the top of SmackDown. As 2007 came to a close, Khali's role shifted. He moved into tag team matches and began transitioning out of the main event scene. His days as SmackDown's dominant force were behind him, but his impact as one of the most physically intimidating wrestlers in WWE history remained undeniable. Now, you might think this is where Khali fades into obscurity, right? Wrong. His championship run might be over, but its impact is just beginning. Khali has proven he can be a top star in WWE. He's shown that sometimes it's not about having 5-star matches or cutting fiery promos. Sometimes it's about connecting with an audience and bringing in new fans. And in that department, Khali hit a home run. From monster to ladies' man? You heard that right. Just when everyone thought they had the Great Khali figured out, WWE throws us all for a loop. Trust me, you're not ready for what comes next. Khali's debut is a smash hit. He's the big, bad Punjabi nightmare that's got everyone shaking in their boots. He's facing off against the biggest names in the business: The Undertaker, John Cena, HBK. You name them, Khali's throwing them around like rag dolls. Between 2008 and 2011, the Great Khali took a surprising turn in his WWE career, shifting from a menacing giant to a more fan-friendly entertainer. Rebranded as the Punjabi Playboy, Khali became known for his weekly Khali Kiss Cam segments, quirky moments that leaned heavily into comedy, even if they were, let's face it, a bit odd. His comedic streak didn't stop there. Khali shared the spotlight with rock legend Ozzy Osbourne during an episode of Monday Night Raw, where he helped judge a segment called Raw's Got Talent. But perhaps his most bizarre moment came on SmackDown during The Rock's birthday celebration, when Khali showed up dressed as the Tooth Fairy.
You are the Tooth Fairy, the world's largest tooth fairy. You can't handle the truth.
While the laughs were plenty, Khali's career also had its setbacks. Injuries forced him out of action twice, though he made a notable return at the 2012 Royal Rumble. Entering as the 15th entrant, Khali managed to eliminate Ezekiel Jackson and Jinder Mahal before being ousted by Cody Rhodes and Dolph Ziggler. However, Khali's momentum began to wane. Throughout the year, he failed to capture either the World Heavyweight or United States Championships in separate attempts. At the 2014 Royal Rumble, he entered at number 16, but was swiftly eliminated by the Shield's Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Multiple Battle Royal losses followed, and Khali's appearances became increasingly sporadic. His final match during this period came on the October 31st episode of SmackDown, where he faced Rusev. Despite his size and strength, Khali was forced to tap out to the Accolade.
And Khali gonna have to tap out.
marking the end of an era, or so it seemed. In 2017, Khali made a shocking return to WWE at Backlash. He emerged during a Punjabi prison match to assist then WWE champion Jinder Mahal in defeating Randy Orton. The moment was short-lived, as Khali's in-ring career officially came to an end at 2018's Greatest Royal Rumble. His last appearance was far from memorable, when Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman teaming up to eliminate the towering giant in quick fashion. From dominating the main event scene to becoming a comedic fan favorite, Khali's career showcased a mix of unforgettable moments, oddities, and inevitable decline. By the end, his time in the ring had fizzled out, but his unique presence in WWE remains part of the company's legacy. In 2021, the Great Khali was inducted in the Hall of Fame. His induction solidified his legacy as a trailblazer for Indian wrestlers. Khali's not done yet. He runs the Continental Wrestling Entertainment Academy in India, teaching aspiring wrestlers the ropes. With over 100 students, it's becoming a breeding ground for future superstars. He's even running a liquor store in Houston with his wife. From a near-fatal accident to the Hall of Fame, Khali's story proves that with determination, you can overcome anything. He's living proof that dreams do come true, even in the face of adversity. But speaking of giants, Khali wasn't the first to leave a massive footprint on the wrestling world. Decades before, there was a man who defined what it meant to be larger than life: Andre the Giant. From his unmatched legacy in the ring to his fascinating life outside of it, Andre's story is one you don't want to miss. Click here to watch our deep dive into the life and career of the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant.